Good morning, my name is Chris Fox, and today we're going to set some goals. Last week's video proved to be very popular, how to set SMART goals for 2019. This week's video is showing you some of my goals. It'll be two segments. The first one is kind of a how-to, this is how you set goals. The second segment will show you my screen and show you some of the goals that I'm setting. So what do I do when I'm sitting down to set goals? Well, the first thing that I do is I figure out where I'm currently at. I do an assessment, if you will. And I look at the area of my life that I'm trying to improve. In this case, let's talk about publishing. So how many books did I sell? Did I earn more income or less income this year than I did last year? What were my goals over the last 12 months? Like when I set goals at the end of 2017 for 2018, what were they? And did I realize them? I'm sort of doing a retrospective, if you will, going over the past year and deciding how I feel about things. And then based on that, I move into phase two. I decide what changes do I want to make. So spoilers, and this will be covered in the income video, but my income for the year is a little higher than it was last year. It's roughly $190,000. We'll talk more about specifics, and I'll get into that in a whole other video again. But that number is good. It's higher than last year. I made more money this year than I did last year. So I will then look at that and say, okay, what do I think is possible this year? It's really easy for me to extrapolate goals based on the previous year. So if I made 190 in 2018, which it looks, somewhere thereabouts, I'm going to push for $300,000 of income in 2019. And once I've stated that audacious goal, which of course sounds nuts, you're like, holy crap. But, the first time I made six figures, I had set a six-figure goal and it sounded nuts. And here I am, 6 years later, and every one of those years has been six figures. So I'm saying to myself, well, self, it's time to kick it up a notch. $300,000 is that goal. Super, super aggressive. Now that's phase two. Phase three is break it down. Figure out how I'm going to get that goal. Okay, so if I want $300,000 next year, first I have to look at this year and see why I didn't hit that goal. And then look at what are optimizations can I make? Do I need to write more books? Do I need to spend more time advertising? What are the problems? And interestingly, as you'll see in the next segment of the video, advertising is now the issue. It's not writing books. And what I'm going to have to do rolling into 2019 is shift my priority. Right now, my priority has been writing books as fast as possible. Get out book after book after book. In 2019, my goal is going to be thinking more like a publisher. I have to work on advertising first and foremost. So one of the first things I'll be doing is every morning from 6:30 until 8 a.m., instead of writing, which is what I normally do first thing, I'm going to be working on ads and marketing. And the stuff I know needs to get that done that day. Like, let's say my mailing list has an autoresponder that hasn't been updated and I should be taking care of that. That's a priority. I'm doing that first now. Every single day I'll be knocking out something business related. I'll be tweaking ads and creating new ones. Because what happened in 2018 for me was, since writing was the priority, my words always got done and I finished the books, but as you'll see in the next segment of the video, there were gaps in my income where I didn't put out a book for a while and I wasn't focused on advertising, and so the income started to fall. And sure, I made a bunch of money from consulting and affiliate income and some new sources, so it more than made up for that, but my ebook income fell, and it didn't have to fall. It didn't fall very much, but instead of falling, it could have risen a lot. And I want it to rise in 2019. So I need to be more consistent in my releases. And those are kind of the two takeaways. For me to succeed at these new goals, I'm going to need to be more consistent in my releases, and I'm going to need to focus more on advertising and business. So that's kind of the focus. Now that I've got that focus, I can keep drilling down and looking at the specifics, like breaking it down and figuring out, okay, what are my challenges? How many books do I need a month? Do I need to publish faster? Anyway, let's jump into the second segment of the video. We'll look briefly at my income and at the books that came out this year versus, previous years, and you can see extrapolating forward what I've got planned. All right, we'll jump in. Okay, so what we're looking at here is all the books that I have published under my own names. I'm not including like anthologies and stuff, but all the main novels and nonfiction releases under the Chris Fox pen name for the last few years. So you can see 2017, you can see 2018, and you can see down there the beginnings of 2019, what I'm projecting to do for this year. Now, if you look at 2017, I released a lot. I released The Great Pack, I released Relaunch Your Novel. I released the 12 Weeks to a Trilogy books, and of course there were 3 of them, Behind the Lines, Hold the Line, and Press the Line. I did Tech Mage, and I did Voidworm. So 2017 was a really aggressive and very profitable year for me. I did really well. And then in 2018, I only released 4 books for the entire year. So Spellship, I put out Plot Gardening, War Mage, and then about 2 weeks ago I put out Crocs Rises. So you can see much, much less stuff put out. Oh, and one thing I forgot here, let's plug this in the correct spot, would have been right here. Void Wraith Trilogy box set. I released the Void Wraith Trilogy in a box set, and it's done tremendously well. So 8 releases in 2017, and then 4 in 2018. And before we jump into 2019 and what I'm planning on doing, let's take a look financially at what this translates into. So hopefully you can see by year. So let's look at last year. So we did 132,000 in ebook sales in 2016, which was still my record year for ebook sales. And then last year in 2017, I did 122. This is with 8 releases. And then this year so far, and this year's almost over, I've only done 111. So I'll probably finish up like right around 113. So my ebook sales are down. My overall income, as again we'll see in that income video, is up because I've had a lot more affiliate income and a lot more consulting income. So that's good news. But I don't like seeing my ebook numbers go down. Now, I guess I'm not too upset because I only released 4 books this year, but really I need to be releasing more and I need to be stabilizing the gaps of my income. I can't have months like November where I'm only earning $5,700 from ebook sales. I am capable of doing $10,000 or $12,000 or $15,000 a month consistently if I focus on it. And that goes back to that mindset we were talking about, where the priority this year is going to need to be business and filling in gaps in my production schedule. And here's how I'm going to do it. There we go. So 2019 is going to be kind of a different animal. I have a lot more, like right off the bat, that I'm rolling in with that I think is going to help things tremendously. The very first thing that I'm going to be doing is my Magitech Chronicles quadrilogy. So I took the first 4 books in the series. Do I have that up here somewhere? Maybe I do. I do. Okay, so here it is. So this is going to go live on January 10th. I've put a ton of promotion into this. I'm really going to try and flog the heck out of it. 99 cents for 4 books. The audiobooks are all completed and have amazing reviews and people love them. So the audio will be going live the same day that I'm going live with the ebook, and I'm going to be pushing really hard. So, you know, fingers crossed that could kick the year off with my first $25,000 a month, but I'm not stopping there. I'm coming into the year with The Dark Lord Burt and Dryker's Folly are already written. So I have 2 novels in the bag, and I'm leading with a box set of books I've already written. So here we are. I've got 3 books that you see on this list coming out, and I haven't even needed to write anything yet because it's all stuff I already have. So the first book I'm actually writing, and I'm working on this right now, is Nefarious. This should be done by the first week of February. The Dark Lord Burt, I'm going to choose a release date based on how well the quadrilogy does. If the quadrilogy knocks it out of the park, I'll delay Burt's release and release it when the sales start to fall. If it doesn't do too terribly well, I'll release the Dark Lord Burt in late January to kind of, revive those flagging sales. But my goal here is to keep tossing out books, when my sales start to fall. Burticus Maximus will probably be the first sequel to the Dark Lord Burt, and I can do that quickly or I can do it slow. So if I put out the Dark Lord Burt and it doesn't do very well, I'll probably hold off on the sequel for a little bit. If it does extraordinarily well, I'll prioritize this book and write it quickly. Either way, Right to Market 2 is already done, so I guess I have 3 books finished before we start the year. I just need to do a final round of polish and some beta to make sure it's exactly where I want it to be. And then I'm also going to be, as soon as I launch Right to Market 2, debuting the masterclass. So I will be picking 10 students to work with me as a pilot for this class, and we'll be actually meeting. So I'll set it up so that there's a video course that they take, and then twice during this course we'll actually meet as a group and go over the work that they've done and sort of cover their homework and try to get everybody, marching in the direction they want to go. But I'm going to be running the Right to Market masterclass at the same time that I release the second version of the book. True Mage, which will be book 7 in the Magitech Chronicles, will come out based on how well the box set and Nefarious do. So I can move this up and kind of push the Dark Lord down and or the Right to Market 2 down based on how well it's doing. If I'm killing it with the quadrilogy, then True Mage will come out sooner rather than later. I have a super secret nonfiction book, and I've now finally gotten smart enough not to show you guys titles months before I release books, because if I do, they get stolen, and all of a sudden I am creating my own competition. So I have another nonfiction book, and I think this one will do probably better than any book since 5,000 words per hour. I have the option at any point during the year of releasing the Void Wraith quadrilogy. So I'm going to be putting that out and actually retiring the trilogy version and releasing a 4-book version of it this year with a lot more fanfare. And I'm going to plug this in to a gap in my publishing schedule. So if I hit a slow patch, then I'll put this out sooner rather than later. But I'd like to coincide it with putting out Dryker's Folly and the sequels. Since this one's already written and it's in the Void Wraith universe, the most powerful way for me to release it would be put out the quadrilogy at the same time or very close to releasing Dryker's Folly and then get the sequels out, so that all my military science fiction is doing well at the same time. I also am going to be relaunching, finally, Heroborn. I went back recently and I reread this book and I was kind of shocked at how good it was. Like, it's some of my best work, even though it was one of my earliest novels, because it's written in the first person and the main character is me. It's my life in San Francisco, except that, my main character gets superhero powers and is abducted by aliens. But, the framework, where he works, what he does, it's all kind of the world that I know. And so I'd like to finish the 3rd book in that series. The first 2 are already done. I will unpublish books 1 and 2, get some new covers that are not terrible, because these are my worst covers ever to date, and then re-release these with a lot of fanfare and much better know-how, much better covers. And this, too, will be plugged into a gap in my publishing schedule. And then finally, if all that stuff goes well, I'm going to put out a new Deathless box set, and then I'm going to write The Ark War, which is book 5 in my Deathless series. So my goal, really, in 2019 is to finish up any series I have that's not finished, and to start releasing box sets in the areas where I'm not really exploiting things. And you can see, if we hop over here to my income, percentage-wise, where's my little pie graph here? Here it is. That space fantasy is about 40% of my income this year. Nonfiction is about 30%, so nonfiction's up a little bit. Military science fiction, I did fine. It could be higher, and I'll work on getting it higher. Dryker's Folly will help with that. But if you look at post-apocalyptic fiction, I'm not really doing anything with this, and I really need to revive it. I have fans that are waiting for book 5 in my Deathless series, and I really want to write it. So this year, I want this to be a larger percentage of my income. I want all of my various books and series to be producing income for me. And since I'm going to be making advertising my priority, I should be doing much better. What you're seeing here is my recent rank in science fiction, because that's where most of my books are, obviously. And you can see that this is the release. I did a Kindle Countdown deal on books 2 and 3 in the Magitech Chronicles series, and I made TechMage free for a few days. And you can see it kind of did help, and then here's Crocs Rising coming out on the 13th, and it peaked for a couple of days, and then all of a sudden, I started falling. And on December 17th, I panicked. I said, okay, the Crocs Rises launch is not going great. Making book 1 free proved to be a mistake, because while I gave away something like 6,000 copies, it didn't translate into Kindle Unlimited page reads in the same way as past promos where the first book was made 99 cents. So I wasn't happy with that at all, and I could see that my books were falling in rank. So all of a sudden I jumped into, and you can see the tabs are even open here, Amazon advertising and Facebook advertising, and I started making ads. And all of a sudden, every single day, even though it was Christmas season, and we're dealing with Christmas Eve and Christmas, I still got my rank to go up. And if we look overall in the store, it looks even a little bit more impressive. You can see I went on kind of this meteoric rise in terms of rank, and my books across the board, nonfiction, science fiction, they're all selling better. And then I passed some sort of hurdle with Amazon. I think with Crocs Rises, it had been 2 weeks where they're doing a little bit less promotion. So as soon as I'm done recording this video, I'll be making even more ads and trying to kind of make up that rank gain that I'm losing a little bit. But the takeaway here is you can see now that I'm focusing on advertising, now that in my goal setting, I've chosen to make advertising more important and I'm doing it first every day, my ranks are going up, my income is going up. If we look at this month, you can see just, this is the daily income here where, I'd gotten to a point where ebook sales were down to like 140 a day. I wasn't running any ads at all. I had just turned off this big ad experiment I was running because it wasn't getting the traction that I wanted it to. I'd paid somebody to do the ads. It wasn't quite, getting the performance I was after. But as soon as I jumped into it myself, all of a sudden, the money is starting to come back in again. And I should be able to get up to a pretty comfortable $500 a day very quickly as I continue the advertising and, of course, the quadrilogy comes out. And hopefully I can push it up past that point. So I'll be finishing fairly strong for the year. I've already made some changes in how I'm advertising. And I'm getting better at it. I'm finding that, when I make it a focus, I do pretty well with it. And I really enjoy making ads. It's rewarding when you create an ad and all of a sudden 2 hours later, your rank starts to go up. Anyway, jumping back to kind of the high level, you sort of can see what my goal is and how I'm going to achieve $25,000 a month so that I get that 300,000. This looks really aggressive. But one thing to notice, I can change colors, I guess. I'm going to just mark out the books that I have to write this year. So can we make this green? There we go. Let's make it green. Boom. Okay, so I'm going to make all of the books that I have to write this year green. All right, so what we're looking at is I would need to write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 novels this year. And that's aggressive, and I might fail. I might not hit all those. But I already have, just based on existing content, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 things I can release without writing anything. Just novels that already exist and nonfiction books that I've worked on and, box sets and bundles. And that is what is going to get me to the consistent $25,000 a month that I'm after. So hopefully this is useful. You guys can see sort of how I looked at a big picture goal, how I'm breaking it down, and sort of what my approach is going to be to hit this. I didn't talk too much about affiliate income, and I didn't talk about how I'm growing that or consulting and how that money's coming in, because it's less relevant to most people on this channel. I don't know a lot of other authors that are consulting at the level that I'm doing. And so I wanted to more focus on this particular set of goals, just publishing. Next week, or possibly the week after, depending on how soon I can get all my numbers done, I would love to dive into the income video. It's probably going to be pretty long. I'm going to contrast it over last year. We're going to look into why my ebook sales were a little lower and why they should be much higher next year. But more importantly, I want to go over that affiliate income and consulting income that I mentioned. You can see where the new revenue is coming from. And then, of course, my explosive growth in audiobook and paperback sales. We'll go over that as well. So I definitely need to get back to the writing, guys. Nefarious is the current project I am working on, and I'm going to get back to that. I'll see you guys next week.